All right, we are back. Welcome again. Thank you so much for joining me for today's reading. This is Crucible Tarot, reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, for the month of July 2026. So, already shuffled the cards, getting things ready so that we can just get straight into the reading and so that we can deliver the messages that are present for you for this specific time. If you like what you see here, please be sure to give a like, share, subscribe, ding the notification bell so you don't miss updates from future postings. And additionally, feel free to leave comments below and also block the scammers because they're out there. Now, I'll be reading from two different types of decks for today. We have the Moonology Oracle deck. We also have the trusty, dusty Rider-Waite deck, which is pretty much ubiquitous across the entire tarot scene. We're also going to be looking at, I guess things are taking shape in the wake of this Mercury retrograde that's going on. I believe it's in Capricorn, but I'm not sure. I'll need to go look for that a bit later on. We find that communication is obviously very skewed and very stretched out. Sometimes it's not very clear. We may have some things like technology breakdown, but you would have to see where Mercury is in your chart in order for that, to take shape. And that usually gives you a picture as to what you can avoid and what you can do in order to survive the period. And it just takes its own shape oftentimes. But depending on which sign it is, it'll tell you if it's going to be in your finances, if it's going to be in schooling and higher education, if it's going to be at work and career, or any other of those spots. So that said, also look where Mercury is as a ruler in your chart. So Virgo, Gemini, places like that, those would be ruled by Mercury, and you can find out more information about the Mercury retrograde. So speaking of that, we are looking at Libra, and you being the scales, adjustments are required. Sometimes you have to adjust the scales in order for things to work out for you a little bit better. This is for the third quarter moon. With this said, this is the area in which things are progressing to the full moon. You have Hold Your Vision, which was read for the previous sign. I believe that was Aries, your other half, your other, polar opposite. They had Hold Your Vision. That means they have to stay fixed. For you, you have adjustments are required. That means you need to be more mutable and more malleable in all of this. Because for the third quarter moon, that's the period leading up to the final manifestation of whatever period you're going through in this 28-day cycle. Looking into this, what I see here, even looking at the card itself, we find that there's a lot of darkness around. And for this, we want to essentially know precisely how to navigate a difficult and challenging time. Darkness isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is a part of the light. It defines the restrictions of the light. And in this, it also allows for the light to shine brighter. So when we're going through a difficult and dark period, we oftentimes need to adjust our trajectory so that way we can find the right pathway forward to get out of the darkness, or until the sun can come out again and shine light on everything that's going on in your path. In that in-between space, we need to communicate with ourselves a bit more. When you have the moon card, oftentimes it tells us of a time in which we have to navigate a lot of uncertainty, and we have to also make sure that whatever it is that we're going through, that we stay on the right path, because the moon the moon card in the Rider-Waite Tarot has a path going through it, through two towers and beacons, and then you have a domesticated dog on one side and a wolf on the other side. So it means that it could go either way in all of this pathway. The undomesticated wolf is kind of like the wild, untamed part of the subconscious, and then the dog is the civilized, loyal, and I suppose steadfast representation of that same energy. So it's like we can go between either polar opposites when we're on our path, especially when we're fumbling around in the dark. So it's important for us to kind of check in with ourselves, adjust our behavior and our time and our resources as necessary as we're going through these different phases. So in saying that, we go to the first one. This is where you were recently. So this is the Nine of Swords, and this is clarified by the Hierophant. With the Hierophant, we find that there's been a lot of anxiety, there's been a lot of difficulties facing your everyday affairs due to a previous commitment that you made with someone. It could have been a marriage, it could have been a contract or an organization. You can only see how it applies to you in this algorithm. We come out here with the Temperance card, clarifying the Hierophant. So it almost feels like you were trying to heal a situation in the past with some, either a large organization or a marriage, possibly even a husband. Even if you were trying to, how can I say, navigate the orthodoxy of your everyday life, the rules that are set by society, and trying to understand how you can navigate it by working with those rules of orthodoxy. Say, for instance, you're a bit unconventional. Maybe you have a different sexuality, maybe you have different viewpoints of the people around you in society. You try to balance your viewpoints with the viewpoints of other people, your sexuality with the sexuality of other people that are the dominant, your ideas with the ideas of other people. And so it's like you're going up against the Leviathan of modern day society, and you can find yourself feeling that tension, that nervous anxiety in dealing with those everyday affairs, because sometimes for people it's not really easy to go out there and have to face a world where everyone thinks diametrically opposed to what you think or feels differently about things compared to what you feel. And so in doing this, it's important that you stay grounded and stay tempered, not too much to extremes, but right down the middle. So that way you can get a hold and a grip of the direction and the path that you wish to take. Moving straight into the rest of this, we have Five of Pentacles, clarified by the Ace of Pentacles. So the Five of Pentacles represents a lot of the GEVURAH concepts that we speak about through the number 5. The number 5 is the number of change, and the number of change is always painful. It's not an easy transit to make, but it is one that is essential for our growth and development. With Five of Pentacles, of course, it could be financially. You may feel that you may be struggling a bit with things. But in the way I'm reading this, unless you have gotten out of a marriage in which you're now struggling to deal with your finances, this could be feeling ostracized by that Hierophant, that Leviathan of modern day society. And the reason for this is the Ace of Pentacles, which could be a new start and a new foundation elsewhere. So this is an offer that the universe has provided for you. You've taken it, and now you feel kind of out of your own element. You may have a bit of, not to say buyer's remorse, but you could also have a bit of imposter syndrome in dealing with all of this. So let me clarify that briefly, just to kind of see where that Ace of Pentacles is at. Back on the Ace of Pentacles. Yeah. Back on the Ace of Pentacles one more. Okay. Right. So you have two opposing cards as well. You have the Knight of Swords and the Four of Swords. So with the two of these, you're oftentimes thinking that you're either going all in one direction, or you're having to take breaks in another direction. So you can feel pulled at two opposing forces throughout all of this, and this can be very challenging to deal with. For example, you may feel a bit stretched thin, possibly with your finances, dealing with a lot of the things that you have to adjust to throughout this period in time. If you've had to go against a government body or an authority, which the Hierophant typically is, and this has affected your finances, whether you're in a lawsuit or you've had to pay some horrible fee or tax or things like that, it's important for you to know when to move forward and when to take a break, or when to set back, because you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. You don't want to cause too many issues for your stability at that time. If this is a marriage, and the marriage has cost you quite a bit financially, you may have had to pay out for something, pay up for child support or for lawyer fees or any of that nature. It's hit you in your pocket quite a bit, and now you have to decide whether or not to charge within some things, or potentially to take a step back and to take a rest. Sometimes when you're having to fight a battle, you don't want what we call like a Pyrrhic victory. And I think I may have mentioned this a little bit to one of the other signs, where Pyrrhus, I think it was a Greek general, if I'm not mistaken, fights this war and then loses so much of his resources and his manpower. Even though he wins the battle, he has lost way more than he could have imagined by fighting too much and costing himself too much of his military, of his resources, of his manpower, and his strategy. So something for you to think about in the future. Finally, we get to the last part. I'm going to have to cover that up because of nudes and all that stuff, where we live in a society where we can have OnlyFans, but we can't have drawn out naked people from a over centuries old, tarot deck. That's the Lovers, indicating a choice, but it's on its side, Page of Swords. So now what you're doing is you're studying the best strategy forward. You're moving and you're trying to study precisely which direction you should go in order to succeed in this. And then after that, you can make your sound decision from there. But because the Lovers is on its side, it's saying that it's not quite indicated yet what decision that you're going to make, or which decision you'll make. Led by Lovers one more time. Yeah, a lot of swords in it, a lot of air energy in this. Lovers is Gemini, Page of Swords, Libra, Gemini, Aquarius, another Libra, Gemini, Aquarius with the Queen of Swords in the reverse. It's almost like the aftermath of this period of financial destituteness, a financially destitute period. It's got you kind of in your feels quite a bit. And for example, it's almost to me like by feeling pushed out, by feeling ostracized, you are deciding whether or not it was the best path to take. You may be having second thoughts about things, and you're just trying to gather enough energy, information to see what is the best path forward for you in your life. The good news is that down the road, got to cover things up, of course, it's YouTube. Down the road, you have the Judgment card, which is about a judgment call that you have to make. So you have two cards talking about an important decision guided by the universe. It's not like the Devil position or the Devil card where it's guided by desires and base wants and materialism. You have the Lovers, which is guided by Archangel Raphael, and then Judgment, which is guided by Archangel Gabriel, which is the Archangel of Heralds, and Raphael is the Archangel of Healing. So these are two very, very powerful archangels in the pantheon of Judeo-Christian thinking, philosophy, theosophy, if you want to call it that. And I'm almost getting a sense that despite what you feel about the situation in the near future, you do have positive help that will step in and guide you throughout the difficulties that you're feeling, because Raphael and Gabriel are very good cards for you to have in your major arcana. So that tells us that as you make the choice, you're going to receive a resurgence in the life that you had in the past, in the sense that you'll be able to get your life together. You'll be able to make the right decisions, the right judgment calls. And then after that, things will ideally start to fall into place, because with these two cards, it normally tells us about life-altering decisions. And once these decisions have been made, then it's important for you to see them through. So in the end of all of this, what I see in your outcome, you have 3 cards. The Knight of Cups in the reverse, 8 of Pentacles, and the 2 of Pentacles. What you're going to choose to do is to focus more on your material existence. So you're going to put in the work really hard to do things, adapt to the changes of life. For the 2 of Pentacles, 2 plus 8 of Pentacles together, that's the 10 of Pentacles. So you're going to try to work to reclaim a lot of the financial burdens that you've received in the past, financial losses that you may have experienced, or the general feeling of feeling destitute and, put on the outside of your society, by working on building a foundation for yourself despite having all of those feelings, hit you during this period in time. So it's about switching off the emotions with the Knight of Cups in the reverse, and then focusing your attention to more practical, pragmatic matter, pragmatic issues and concerns. What is this? Advice, clarifying advice thing. So what you have in your advice, you have the you have the 2 of Swords and 4 of Wands, both in the reverse. As we're in the card that says adjustments are necessary, it could be several things that you need to adjust. Maybe it's your perspective about things, learning how to get out of the rigidity of your previous feelings and actions about things, learning how to change your mind when it's necessary. And then the 4 of Wands in the reverse. It could just be telling you that maybe you need to move house. Maybe you need to change your perspective on certain things. Maybe you also have to switch things up, so that way you leave yourself more room for success as you struggle with these difficulties in the future. So give yourself time to kind of think about that as you go through these motions, and try to understand that you will have protection and guidance as this proceeds and as this progresses. As we know, based on the way jobs are, based on the way the markets are, it can be an absolute pain in the arse for you to achieve something of lasting value, whether that's buying a home, paying one off, struggling with debt, struggling with finances, leveling yourself up in the best way possible, because people feel entitled to that. And it's a good feeling to have, to want to build yourself in a society in which there's a lot stacked against you. But it is possible. And a lot of times through sheer determination and will, and understanding how to manifest things, knowing that you are a microcosm, a seed of the macrocosm, you're able to tap into those, ageless powers and capabilities that are endemic to every person to materialize things that you need to bring into your life. It's going to be important for you to keep that focus, stay grounded, resilient, and additionally, to weather the storm. so that way you can make this a reality. So that's the message I'm going to give to you. I'm going to kind of leave it there. I do appreciate your time and attention. Thank you so much for joining me for today. This is Crucible Tarot, reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Again, feel free to like, share, subscribe, ding the notification bell, comment, and until next time, VIAM, GEVURAH, AMBULO. Bye now.